Meeting to order. Can we do roll call, please?
Okay. Cindy Fox Griffey. Here. Debbie Haley. Here. Caleb Hunter. Here. Matt Johannesson.
Here.
Nat Kovner.
Here.
Scott Kovner.
Here.
Rick Masterson.
Here.
Brian Pundman.
Here.
Dick Ruffcar. Robert Schmidt.
Here.
James Sagnoni.
Here.
Dan Coots.
Thank you. Via email, the minutes for April 20th were sent out.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any corrections, any amendments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. At this time, we would have public comment.
Good afternoon, members of the County Road Board. Sorry, need to catch my breath here. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. And what I wanted to talk about is the economy. As we all know, we're facing a lot of economic challenges with the cost of living going up on a daily basis, weekly basis. The cost of gasoline is now over $4. As a matter of fact, $4.29. So we're looking at possibly $5 a gallon, and that's really going to affect these projects. As I stated last month, I'd like to see us do the bare minimum of what we need to get by with this year and see how the economy is, see how inflation is going to hammer out at the end of the year. Now, when it comes to my own hometown, the city of O'Fallon, the last go around, you approved $2.3 million in a reconfiguration of a downtown street that really didn't have any effective change. It was really the road to nowhere. And that really is concerning to me that we spent this kind of money. It's to try to open up a O'Fallon station, which the developer has already promised that he's going to sit on the land until he passes away and it goes to his kids. And his kids will end up selling the property. It'll probably never get developed for the next 25 years. So basically that concrete is going to sit there rotting away, not being any benefit to the community. It was a total waste of the money in downtown O'Fallon of a street that goes to nowhere and will not be developed for at least the next 25 years. So those are my thoughts for this month. I'd really like to see some of the waste, some of the pork barrel projects be cut from the budget, and then we do what we can get by with to ride out the storm of fiscal responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Public comment will be closed. So, item number 5 is an update on project overages and inflation impacts. Amanda?
Yep. Okay, so I know there were some questions last month, and just kind of in general, kind of what we're doing about overages and inflation. So after talking to several different sources, it seems like overall projects last year came in about 8% over their programmed amounts. That was both federally for federal projects and for MoDOT projects is kind of the number they came up with. So we had a few that came in much higher than that for whatever reasons. And, you know, I think we had some that came on in some city projects that came in at budget. You know, I think we were across the board. So on average, 8%. So kind of what other entities are doing is just maintaining their 3% inflation per year, but going back to the projects and readjusting for the new costs per bid. So basically what MoDOT did was they went back into their STIP and adjusted for, you know, today's bid prices and then added the 3% inflation on top of that. So I think in terms of road board, well, and one other thing I wanted to add to that, we did go back to MoDOT regarding cost share projects. O'Fallon had the phase 2 project that was just bid. And MoDOT, the district, said they were okay with us trying to submit the overages on that based on the bid, just the bid prices being higher at the same percentage as they were already in the project. So that was 31%. So we did send that in. The district is sending that on to the commission level. So there's a cost share committee that meets on June 16th, and they will discuss that and decide what they're going to do moving forward. So that will be setting a precedent for them. I would say basically, you know, if then we have other cost share projects out there that hit the same kind of thing, we would be able to request additional funds on those as well. Federally, East West Gateway denied increases and said that they want to stick with the money they have to give it to more projects and did not want to let that come back down to projects that are already out there. So they did say that if it gets worse, they will, you know, consider it further. But for right now, they denied all requests. So from our perspective, my intent right now, and I have not really had a chance to talk to the cities and see where their projects are, that's kind of my next step, but is to discuss kind of where everybody is, how much budget flux they think they're going to have in some of their projects just based on new cost estimates for projects that are ongoing. For projects done this year, I think my intent is to say, you know, use the current bids, put in that 3% per year, and we are going to stick to that unless something drastic happens again. Hopefully everything kind of calms down and, you know, the 3% is good. If there's a comfort level with going a little bit higher than that on you guys' side, we could do that. But I think some people alluded to the fact that, you know, they might just add a little bit on bid items anyway. So I think the cities will come to a comfort level that they're okay with, and that, you know, we'll just need to say, we gave you what you requested and you need to hold to that, unless like there's another like crazy 50% hike or something that happens because of who knows what. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And I think that kind of answers the questions you had, but if anybody has questions, comments, concerns.
I would just make two comments, just if I'm valid, but one is really the overages technically with our contracts are on the municipality,
Yes.
and they're always welcome to ask.
Yes.
And we can field each request as it comes up, or as there is a one-off or something that's truly an outlier, they would bring it to us and we would consider it.
Yeah. And my ask to them is more to make sure that if they think they're going to ask and it's going to be a significant ask, that I make sure we have room for it in the budget. Really alluding to what Mr. Dinoff said. I don't want to put the cities in a situation where they're either not doing the project or they're paying, you know, an exorbitant amount to make it happen. Especially on some of these really big projects that I think Winsville probably has some of the most significant projects going on right now, and I don't want to stick them with a, you know, huge overage on something that the entire community needs and feels is valuable. So,
But clearly they need to communicate these things to
yes,
you.
ahead
and
of
the board.
time.
Yes.
Yes.
But have they
yes.
come back to you on any of those projects?
Not yet.
Okay. Now, the presentations last week, I think, after we got done, it seemed like escalation and pricing of material was all over the place. There was no consensus. That's probably not the right word to use, but it was not uniform the way they priced them up. So was that going to be adjusted? Are we going to live with their prices? And the guy puts in 20%, that's fine. The guy puts in 10%, that's
For
okay.
their inflations and their, I think we'll adjust it. I think we'll come back to it. I say that though, and like I've said in the past, they could always go bid item by bid item and make their inflation number lower, but you know,
Well,
it
that's
still come up to the same cost.
Well,
So
yeah, the point is, some of them were adjusting prices of
Right.
asphalt, concrete, and then still putting in
Right,
installation
right.
on top of it. So it
Yes.
seems like we're double dipping here.
yeah, so we're gonna attempt on the projects that we're gonna recommend. I'm not gonna do it on everything, because if it's not a recommended project, there's no sense in wasting the time right now. But you know, if we think it's gonna be recommended, we're gonna go back and just say, let's look at it one more time, make sure we're happy with this. On those that applied for federal funds and received federal funds, I think that'll be a little bit more difficult because they use the same cost estimate for the federal funds. So we'll just need to work out how that comes down on. But that's all stuff we'll talk about it more next month. I just wanted to kind of let you guys know. As far as our budget, I think we're looking at, allocating 15 to 20 million this year. We did pretty good on federal funds. I don't know what I did with it, but yeah, we did fairly well. I think I sent you guys a spreadsheet that shows which projects that were applied for were recommended for federal funds. So there is a lot coming in, and we'll definitely make sure we can match those projects. So.
Any comments on the inflation and the overages? While you're on a roll, you want to discuss some of the other emails and attachments on the River Point,
Sure.
so we can be on the record on that?
Yep. So I just wanted to, I know there were some comments from Mr. Bethman on River Point last month and some questions that came up, and I was not able to attend, and my phone actually died, so I apologize. I was at a conference and I didn't plan ahead very well, I guess. So anyway, we did meet with the city, and I just wanted to reiterate a few things. They do intend to move with the full site traffic study very soon. I know that was a contingency of the project in our contract, so I think somebody here was one that said, hey, we should see a traffic study. So they are starting that. They do have a developer, Clayco. So yes, that differs from their application. But their application stated they would have 150,000 to 200,000 square feet of office tenant. The Clayco plan shows 300 to 600,000 of office space. In total, I think they showed, where did I put that? They showed on their plan that they would have, oh my gosh. I have too many papers, here it is. That they would have 1.5 million square feet of total development, and the Clayco plan shows 1,046,000 to 1,946,000. So right in that range. The jobs, there's still, somebody asked about, there were 1,200 stated in the application, 1,263, including 383 office. So the job requirement that we put in the contract is for qualifying jobs paying over a certain wage and providing 50% benefits. So the 140 comes based on a mathematical equation of 50,000 per job for the amount of funds requested. So 7 million was 140 jobs. That's what we set for Caledonia. So we kind of were trying to maintain fairness and say, this is the amount you have to guarantee for this amount of money. And that's actually an amount that comes from the Department of Economic Development for some stuff they do. It's a little bit different. It's like a credit, but that's where that came from. So the 140 in the contract is because of that. They do still expect to have, the high number of office jobs that will pay above that wage. They may not be in the appropriate sectors. They may not be new to the county, but they may be.
Why would we dramatically lower, when they offer something, why would we take it down to a third, or, it just seems like we're making it easier for, well, no, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
They presented something, that's what we basically approved, and I'm not saying we gotta hang with that whole number, but it seems like we're being overly generous to say, well, they said 383, we'll do 140. Again, the formula seems to be fairly spurious. It's not related to anything, but they offered it. That was what we kind of agreed upon here and what we recommended, and then we put something else different in the, it seems like
no, totally understood.
And it is economic development. That's
yes.
That's what we basically base this on. So
yes,
getting that impact to me is important for these
I-
dollars.
And I think that's good to know moving forward. This application that we use is really old and needs to be replaced. And while I was kind of reviewing all this stuff, I was like, okay, we do things so much different than we did back then. So I think we just need to, change that in the application because this doesn't really say anything about those qualifications. So I think our intent when we changed the number for their contract was that, hey, you still might have some really good jobs, like some really great jobs, but if they don't meet all of these very, very specific criteria, we're still okay with that. And, we could have even also put in there like, such and such other jobs. So I know we did that on another contract. So I think that's definitely something that we will likely do moving forward. I'm pretty confident they're gonna give us more than we asked for, quite honestly. So I'm looking to Brad to just kind of see, he's very involved, but I think that we're gonna see more come out of this than what, we were promised.
Going back a couple of years, what did we recommend? What did the council approve? And then what actually got enacted in the contract? And again, we're never a part of the contract.
Right.
Obviously, we make a recommendation, the
Right.
county, they are the approval, the county council. So again, just more of again, we talk about one thing and then,
Yeah,
and if this doesn't get brought up, we don't even end up knowing what's in any of these contracts.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So yeah, the $7 million and the 50% for road improvements was kind of the main component, and then the contract language gets kind of hashed above us and makes its way to council. So yeah, I hear you. I understand. I think we'll definitely do some changes moving forward, but I think that this is still a valuable project. This is still going to do great things for the area.
and I would make one other comment, just for the fact that we're not, nor do we want to be in an adversarial relationship with any of our municipalities. They're our partners. That's what the road board is basically based on, is this partnership or this pooling of monies to get roads done. If there's a reason under contract that we are at odds with them, obviously we want to work that out, but it's not our intention or designed to be litigious or at odds with these people. Well, we do have to have contracts, so I'm not suggesting we do a handshake type deal, but we're certainly not in
Right.
opposition to, this is an economic development project, that's why we did it, it's going, thank God there's a developer, it's getting better, not
Yeah.
worse.
Yep.
But it's not, I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I don't think it's the road board's responsibility to be legal counsel or review the contracts or interpret them or anything else.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
Originally it was presented as a entertainment, retail district. And looking at your pictures here and all that stuff here, the whole focus seems to have changed to residential business district. Is that gonna generate the sales tax and stuff that they originally?
There is still a retail restaurant component.
Yeah,
There-
but not near, because the original one, if you go to the website, the county website, and look at
Okay.
it, and you had the water park looking thing and all that stuff, and I mean, it's, the pictures have totally changed
Yes.
from what was presented to us to what they're now saying this is gonna be. So it looks like the whole focus of this is changed.
So phase 3 was proposed as an entertainment venue at the time that we received the application, like an amusement park. I'm not sure what sales tax that was, expected to generate, but that will now be homes, like townhomes. So yes, that was a big change. But I think, like I said, overall, their total square footage of retail, office, all of those things has gone up significantly. And you're probably not wrong. It's probably more office and residential than it was, although it wasn't broken down quite like that on the original application. But I think there's still a good
It was
amount.
implied though, with the pictures,
Yes,
you know.
yes.
I mean, who reads the words, people look at pictures.
Well, and I think that was the least desirable piece of the project, but it was almost like it was gonna go first because they had somebody almost ready to go. And I'm
Right.
guessing that fell apart, but I mean,
Right.
it's that long, narrow
I mean,
piece
if
that's.
it goes all to residential and mostly to residential, what's it gonna do to the school district and everything else?
That I would defer to the city. You're welcome, you're welcome to
Well,
ask them.
But I think that that's just that
Yeah,
phase
but the
three.
city's not, the school district isn't the city.
Right.
Are you finished?
Caleb had a question.
Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Where does it say that the road board money can be used for economic development? And the reason why I ask that is, in my opinion, we're here on behalf of the taxpayers to protect them. This is just my observation, you guys can shut me up if you want. But this is the ballot language that was put forth here in April. And this is what was pushed out to get everybody to vote for this, which is fine. Shall the County of St. Charles extend the countywide transportation sales tax at the rate of 1.5% for a period of 10 years from the expiration of the current tax for the purpose of traffic relief, construction, reconstruction, and repair of roads and bridges within St. Charles County? So where do we get economic, like, why are we giving $7 million for development when we have all these cities crying for money for their roads? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that a valid,
Yeah.
am I stupid for asking this, or?
No,
I feel like
no, this has been asked before.
But where does it say we can use it for economic development? Because we told the taxpayers it's just for the roads.
So, well, it is for roads. So we have articles, we have a separate, and what is this called, like the charter?
That's in the county.
Okay, in the county charter, there's an article about the county road board, and one of the things that, this isn't the right one actually, Kelly.
So, I mean, if we're giving
Because
$7
that's
million
the one
to
that
this
says-
development,
but
we
there's-
took
there's-
$7 million, got federal funds, it's $14 million for roads that we could be, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
no. Yeah, no. So there's 3 priorities in the, it's not in that one, it's in something else. But in the charter or in the articles or something, and they are new arterial, like reconstruction of arterial roadways, traffic, congestion, safety, and then economic development. So that's where it comes from. It's part of the county's charter language on the sales tax. No, you're right, it's not in the ballot language.
I just feel like it's misleading. I feel like it's misleading to the taxpayers. I'm just, you know, I feel like that's why I'm up here, and
Yeah.
I think maybe that should be addressed, but.
I mean, the money we do spend is for roads, so that's kind of where that, and, you know, we get to decide, and they're public roads, which is the criteria. They can't be like a road within a development for their, you know, their employees to drive on. So it's been used as a resource to, you know, keep from having to do other tax incentives, when other areas around us are giving tax incentives. So, and that's an argument that's not really for me to have. It's, you know, something that I'm not an economic developer. I don't know about, you know, what's needed, but I do hear from the county EDC that it's great that we have this program because it gives us a little bit of something that we can bring to the table when certain new projects come in. So I mean, if you feel that way, that's fine, and
This is
you're
not the
more
best.
than welcome to take that to, you know, a higher level, but you know, economic development is part of what's in there right now, so we take them as they come.
That's all I had, sorry.
All right, I'm gonna, the 14 million, 7 million from us, 7 million from the city,
Yes,
50-50 split.
Yes.
Was that based on phase 1, 2, and 3, or phase 1 only?
1 and 2, or 1, well, I guess it's 1 and 3, but,
Well, what was it? That's what I'm asking. What was it initially? What was proposed to us? Because I know all 3 phases were showing,
yes,
and the 14 million was the cost of the roads?
yes, for 1 and 3, which are congruent to each other. The piece down
Okay,
by,
that's 2. I was
That's 2.
thinking it was the other way around.
Yes.
Okay, so the
Yes.
first part there.
yes.
So when the city of St. Charles presented it, okay, I guess they had some skin in the game. Now we got a developer in there. Why are we paying for all the roads within the project? Why?
Because they will still be public roadways.
No, but then we didn't do that on Caledonia, and we didn't do it on the one in Wentzville. We only paid for one road through the project. Basically, it became part of our road system, if you will, not all the little offshoots to all the other stuff. So why did we change?
Well, we ended up playing it 80-20 to have it kind of, it equaled out.
What do you mean 80-20?
We went 80-20 on Caledonia instead of 50-50.
We paid the 20,
We paid 80.
we paid
Only for the main drag, not
Only for
not
the main
the
drag,
residential
not for the
areas or
rest.
anything
And the
else.
one in Wentzville too,
Right.
we only did the one drag, one road through the project that tied in, the one for North Point.
Okay,
It basically took the road from down on,
Yes.
wish I could remember the name of the street, up to Highway A. Not all the other little offshoots farther.
I don't think this is, I mean, we don't have everything yet, but I don't think this is gonna be really like one main drag and one connection.
Well,
And then signals.
Maybe the roads have changed, but what I remembered was there was one road that basically came from the north end of the project and tied back in down on Upper Bottom where it made the curve. And I could certainly understand that kind of based on what we did on Caledonia, but
Right.
why would we pay for all those other little pieces from road board funds?
Well, or did the scope change with phase 3 where now it's all residential?
Phase 3, we have no road, I don't think we have any roads in, well, we have Arena Parkway. Yeah, yeah. So there will be changes to, Arena Parkway itself within phase 2, phase 3, that will help fund. There will be improvements on Fifth Street that will help fund, and then I think it basically is the main, that's Main Street, right? No. South River,
Like I said, when there's a,
South.
I think we went far beyond what we should have in terms of what the road board should have contributed on this.
You find it? Okay, that's fine. Noted.
Any other comments on that? Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 6, which is the 2023 to 2025 TIP application presentations. And we can start with the City of Lake St. Louis, please.
Kelly, does this control it? Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Derek Castle. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Lake St. Louis. Thank you for allowing me to present the city's request for road board funding this year. We have one project that we're submitting. It's Lake St. Louis Boulevard, Phase 1 South. On the screen is the project location map for the entire project. The application is for Phase 1, which is the northern section of the project. I'm going to start with a little background information from the study that the city just recently completed. We had Oates and Associates and CBB do a study on the Lake St. Louis Boulevard corridor to tell us what type of improvements we need to handle the traffic and future development in the area, as well as look a little bit at some of the surrounding transportation network. So starting with the existing conditions, we have an existing 2-lane roadway with shoulders and open drainage along the majority of the route. The eastern right-of-way line has a bike path located along it, and on the western right-of-way line, there's intermittent sidewalks. Existing traffic is approximately 9,000 cars a day on Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 2050 traffic is projected to be over 20,000 cars a day. At 20,000 cars a day, we need a 5-lane section shown in the bottom typical section. But we're not there yet. So the plan for the next few years will be applications for phases of Lake St. Louis Boulevard that will be 3-lane sections, preserving the right-of-way for the ultimate 5-lane section, and setting the sidewalks and bike paths out at the edges of the right-of-way line to try to establish the limits of the boundaries of the corridor so the adjacent property owners have that expectation and understand where their property ends and where the city's right-of-way starts. The study also looked at locations where we can allow signals in the future. It's important that we pay attention to where we allow signals so that we have adequate spacing between them and things function well, and looked at some connection points that we need to make in the surrounding road network. What's important about these blue lines is that they're illustrative. They're just showing connections that need to be made. They're not trying to show the actual proposed corridor. We will work with developers on those lots as they develop to locate those, and some of them may necessitate road board applications in the future. The objectives of the project are to add a continuous two-way left turn lane down Lake St. Louis Boulevard. There may be points on the other phases where the two-way left turn lane is replaced with medians in some locations if we don't have left turns needed in those areas. We are attempting to preserve the right-of-way for the ultimate 5-lane build-out, setting up intersections for signalization, which in future phases may sometimes mean that we're going to build that signal with the project. In phase 1, it is not. The objective is to set the geometry up so that adding a signal when warrants call for it is an easy retrofit. We plan to reconfigure Freemouth Lane to accommodate the signal spacing that I talked about, and also that reconfiguration of Freemouth Lane, jumping to the final bullet point, will allow us to accommodate a future outer road. An outer road can pass south of the I-70-64 interchange, which is already, the outer road is already in place. It can be extended across Prue Creek possibly someday in the future and follow up Freemouth Lane, and then to the signal, the northern color signal in this photograph. It would then be able to continue down through shops at Hawk Ridge and then go out Highway N, old Highway N. And of course, we're also providing bicycle and pedestrian facilities, an important component of federal funding and something the road board's looking at more favorably these days. We've got some concept plans here for the ultimate 5-lane build out. The left edge of this slide is the beginning of the phase 1 project limits on the south end. That's Hawk Ridge Circle that you see, the south leg of Hawk Ridge Circle you see there, and then the north leg of Hawk Ridge Circle, and you can see Freemouth Lane being realigned to create a new intersection that can continue across the undeveloped land to the east. The existing Freemouth Lane, we haven't firmly decided whether that will be removed or whether it'll become a access point for development at that location, driveway, access for the east or west side of that road, cul-de-sac. We'll have to figure that out, probably in consultation with the property owners. Summary of the project funding: it's a $3.4 million project. The city has been recommended for a $1.5 million federal STP grant. We're requesting $1.25 million from the road board. We plan to make a cost share application in June for $500,000. If all of that works out, the city will be left with $112,000 city match. And this is a more detailed summary of the costs and funding breakdown. Are there any questions?
Right.
Can you go back to the map that shows the,
That?
no, the other map? Nope, no, no. That one.
Yes.
So all of the blue lines and the blue dots Is that for a future possible configuration of some interior roads when the property's developed?
The blue lines, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you very well.
The blue lines, what are the blue
The
lines?
light blue lines are future projects, so Orf Road, on the south of the photograph, Orf Road, we anticipate upgrading that road. We'd like to realign that so that it continues through and connects up to Ridgeway at Hawk Ridge Trail. That's undeveloped land right now. We've got a proposal for a development in that area that we're working on, and we're trying to coordinate with them. The alignment won't look like what you see here, but it will make the same connections. The line that cuts across the undeveloped that realigns Hawk Ridge Trail and then brings that up to that new intersection that we're creating. That's in our city comprehensive plan, and that's something that we want to see when that property is developed.
Okay, and so the blue line that crosses where the new intersection is gonna be up at the top. In that area, you mentioned future traffic.
Right there?
Yes.
Yes.
Is the 20,000 cars on Lake St. Louis Boulevard, or is it coming off of Freedom?
On the Boulevard, 20,000, I think this one is 24,000, 21,000, I think this is 19 down here.
Okay,
I think they assigned 6,000 cars through here, but that really depends on what kind of development happens.
right. What about on Freemuth, the road you're gonna realign up at the top?
We don't anticipate that will change very much.
Yeah, I wouldn't
And
think
it's not a very high traveled road.
There's only a couple of neighborhoods down there, correct?
Pardon
A
me?
couple neighborhoods down there. and then-
Yeah. I think I don't want to say a number. It's all residential.
Yeah,
I think that the objective there is twofold. One is that Hawk Ridge Circle, we can't have signals at both legs of Hawk Ridge Circle because those signals would be too close together. So we want to pull those signal locations apart. The other thing that we're trying to accomplish is in the very long range plan, 20, 30, 40 years from now, someday, hopefully somebody will find a way to have an outer road that connects through here for it to be able to go somewhere and for people to not, for those areas not to be developed, to preserve that corridor. We're trying to set that up today so that we have a roadway network that can be improved in the future.
Thank you. So I have a question. So on your traffic lights, where are all those locations?
Okay. So this signal here is at the realigned Freemuth Lane.
Okay,
So there's no intersection there today. Will not be warranted until this road is connected, most likely, because there's not enough traffic down here coming up Freemuth. South leg of Hawk Ridge Circle. We're not quite at warrants yet, but we're not that far away. This is a potential location. It could slide north or south a little bit, but it's would be reliant upon what happens when this area is developed. Currently, that is cemetery owned by the Catholic Church and is all planned for cemetery, although they've indicated that they plan to shrink the size of the cemetery and sell that off for development.
not the current cemetery, I hope.
And then we looked at signalizing either Hawk Ridge Trail or Orf Road. We can't do both because they're too close together. So we selected Orf Road with the idea that we can bring people from Dwello down Orf, have a parallel path along Highway N because we have a lot of congestion there, and even with the upgrades, we probably still will have congestion on Highway N. So we give people an alternate route following parallel to Highway N, be able to let them come across the boulevard with a signal and bring them into the back of the shops at Hawk Ridge.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. Sorry, anybody else? So you're asking for study money. However, the traffic that you're anticipating isn't quite there yet, and the blue roads aren't going to be built until there's a developer to take that. And we're not sure what happens with the cemetery ground yet. So what is the study, what do you hope the study's going to show?
Well, we've already done the study.
Okay,
So the request is actually to construct phase one.
I see.
We do need 3 lanes currently with current traffic. As the development that has already happened has come in and the other development that we're anticipating in very short order, left turns are increasing. And as the left turns increase with the current through traffic, we're starting to have delays and have a need for those left turn lanes. So we do need to improve the road. The condition of the road is also nearing a point where it needs attention. And we also want to take the road from a rural cross-section with shoulders and put in enclosed drainage, curb and gutter, proper pedestrian facilities, those sort of things.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much. City of O'Fallon?
Good afternoon, road board members. I'm Chris Clerks, Capital Improvements Manager for the City of O'Fallon, and I am here to present the projects that we submitted. So we had actually submitted 7 applications this year, but we are going to retract one because of Weldon Springs Phase 2 was denied federally. We applied for some STP funds, but we're not granted those, so that one will not be part of our request. But that's the list of what we'll be presenting today. There's a general map of the areas of the projects that we'll be looking at here, mainly in the north end of town. And then a couple on the west side of town, over along Hopewell Road, Dye Road area. So the first one we want to talk about is just Main Street Phase 1. That one is actually one of the projects we've already got STP funds from. But it goes from Pittman Avenue to the railroad tracks, right there before City Hall. We're only requesting construction funds on this one because we already have the federal funds acquired, and we're in design and right-of-way acquisition now, so we'd be going to construction here hopefully at the end of this year. As far as existing conditions, Main Street has an ADT of 23,000, so it gets a lot of use. It's getting to be deteriorated. We've had some water main work that has actually caused some repairs to be made in the road already, so we're just going to try to overlay that whole area, resurface it. We also want to put some revised signal improvements at Church Street, and then also improve our pedestrian facilities that go through that area. And then also improve some stormwater drainage that we need to upgrade since it's all pretty old through that stretch. A couple of pictures from it. Where that truck is passing, we've actually got a deteriorated grate on the storm that needs to be addressed. We've had it plated for quite a while, so that's all part of the project. And then this would be your funding breakdown. We're looking for about 20% of the construction there, so $607,000 roughly for Main Street Phase 1. As far as Main Street Phase 2,
So you're not changing the road at all?
no, it's simply a resurfacing, and we would go back with the pedestrian improvements. Those are the big ticket items. The stormwater obviously is a big ticket item too, but it's mainly a resurfacing job. Yep. And the same thing with Main Street Phase 2. Essentially, it's a resurfacing job. We're not adjusting the roadway widths at all. We would be going back this one is actually located between Pittman, and then that goes south to Terra Lane, closer to 70, ties into all the new stuff that was done as part of I-70's project with Phase 1 for the Highway K Interchange. Construction funds only, again, because we already have the federal funds for this one. ADT remains the same, and, you know, one of the things we do want to do is improve our pedestrian facilities through there, because we were able to get connectivity through going underneath I-70 with the interchange project, which was a big obstacle that we have finally overcome. So we want to extend that, that movement as best we can through the Main Street corridor. So it's a very similar project, just a different location. There's a couple of pictures there. Heavy commercial there along that area. So I do see a lot of people walking up and down along the shoulders and wherever there isn't a sidewalk. So, and then the funding is, again, we're looking at about 20% from the county road board, which is about $380,000 for Main Street Phase 2. One of the ones on the western portion of the city is Dyer Road. That would be, this is actually at the intersection, starting at the intersection of Hopewell Road, and then it would travel west, and it would actually go through a proposed development. I think it's called Harvest. That Harvest development, I think, ties into a future county development that's up there, which I cannot remember the name of. Autumn Hollow? Okay, thank you. So it would be connectivity through that. It would be a county, city, and developer partnership, and we'd be looking for construction funds for that. Harvest Development is planning on getting going here in 2022, and this road would extend through there for the connectivity I was talking about through the subdivision and to the other St. Charles County subdivision. And it would improve it would install a new roadway with pedestrian improvements. And you can kind of see it through there, is what it generally looks like from the development plan that we have. And it would be that stretch on the top right. Let's see here. Oops, wrong one. Up here, I think, is where that connectivity to the other subdivision would be. And then this is Hopewell right there. So with that, that's what the cross section would look like according to the development plan we have, which has got a median in it and buffered two lanes there. And we would be looking for construction only on this one, so it ends up being a 55-35 split, 55 being county road board, 35 being the developer, and 10% being the city. So that would be the Dyer Road extension. We have also submitted the Dyer Road reconstruction, mainly because of all the conversations that we've been hearing and seeing develop along the Hopewell-Dyer Road corridors. We are aware of the Lake St. Louis Phase 3. I'm sure you guys are aware of that one too. Lake St. Louis Phase 3 would come down to Highway DD whenever that's built. Highway DD, I think MoDOT's had some plans to improve that intersection in general. So we want to start trying to improve Dyer Road as a whole, and we need to look at that on the design side. So we're only asking for design funds at this time because we know it'd be a phased construction. It's just too large a project to construct all at one time, but we feel that if we can design it at one time, we'll know what we need to plan for as far as right-of-way needs properly and accurately, and also then construction costs in the future. But again, we wanted to look at trying to get the design going on this so we could evaluate that. O'Fallon does have some developments already built kind of down in here where right-of-way is established, so that's a good thing for us. Actually down through here, I think we got at least a half of some of the right-of-way established, so we would carry that through. But there's some areas that are all still county up in this area and then down in this area that we would still have to evaluate the best avenue for us to proceed with on this one. So, and it's basically generated because of the amount of development that we're starting to see in the southwest end of our city, connecting to other adjacent municipalities. So right now it's just a small 2-lane asphalt road, no shoulders, and pretty tight. It's got a lot of horizontal and vertical curves to be addressed and evaluated to see what we can do to help those for sight distance reasons and whatever else. And then we want to get a pedestrian facility that would all connect into that harvest development, getting across Hopewell. We feel that it would probably be very similar to that, maybe not like a median installed, but at least a 2 to 3 lane cross section. We just haven't landed on that officially yet. And then the cost breakdown for that is, again, this is design only, so we'd be looking at an 80-20 split on this one, so about $500,000 from the county road board to help us with that effort. Another project that we're talking about is West Terra Lane realignment. This had started in conversations that was tied to a larger project, but we're kind of breaking this out for the city to be able to evaluate it as it's still a very large project, but it's a little bit more reasonable to look at it this way. It would be to try to realign West Terra, which is right there at the Bryan Road interchange. It gets stacked up really, really bad with traffic during peak hours for sure, but it's just a constant flow of traffic through there with truck traffic going into our North Central Industrial Park and all that. We have a high school that's very close by that we have a lot of stacking with vehicles and all that too. So it would be to design funds essentially for this one would be requested, so we could try to realign somehow this West Terra to pull it away from I-70, because it was built really close obviously, and it's hard to get people through there when everything is so tight. So designing it would give us the ability to again accurately depict what we need for right away 100% hopefully, and then also accurately go into construction with it, because this will be a kind of a long-term project for us. Our construction estimate is ballparked around 12 million, but that could fluctuate obviously with today's market and what could or couldn't happen. So currently the ADT in this area is about 10,500. Like I was talking about during peak times, and like I said, the biggest advantage to just doing the design right now and trying to figure out the best avenue for this project would be to accurately move forward with it instead of us just taking a dart, throwing it at the wall and see what sticks. So we want to try to do this as best we can, because it will impact people. There's just some general pictures of it at bottom right here is probably the one you can't see very well, but that's one of our guys sitting and stacking, and there's people well behind him too. So as far as that, we estimated that amount for the design, so we'd be doing asking an 80-20 split on that one, so about 1.4 to help us with that.
Is that a big number for design?
For a project of this size, we feel it's pretty accurate. So, yeah. As far as the last project that we want to talk about is Tom Ginevra Avenue on the north end of town and then Cool Springs intersection. So that would be generally located right there, and I'll just point out, we would actually also probably apply for federal funds. I think this would be a good project to do that for, either STP or CMAQ. So we would be doing that here in the future regardless, to see if we can acquire funds. But it's currently a flashing stop sign, and it stacks. So if I back up one slide, right there is a high school, and right there is a high school, and there's commercial and industrial all the way through here. This intersection is also a main detour thoroughfare for our Heritage and Freedom Fest. If you've been there, you know that there can be a lot of people and cars and whatever else running around there trying to get through this intersection, because it's the main detour when TR Hughes gets shut down for that. Right now it handles about 18,500 vehicles a day. Significant delays our cars because it's a stop condition, so it's pretty slow moving through there. And we'd like to get into the design, and we originally, and I'll show you a picture here in a minute, we originally anticipated just doing a roundabout. There might be some complexity to that one, so we're also going to look at and evaluate if it would be better just to do a traffic signal and get it timed right. So we want to look at both of those, but get into design, figure that out, get ADA improvements through there because we have kids walking up and down this road all the time. So we want to make sure that that's as safe as possible too. This is our generic roundabout layout that we tried to kind of put together. We've got some utilities right in this area that are a little bit hairy, so that's why we want to look at possibly doing a traffic signal, whatever fits best and whatever's the most economical and is going to function the best for us is what we'd move forward with. But we would come, at a later date for any construction funds on that one. These pictures don't depict any of the stacking, but I was unable to get them before the presentation, so I apologize. That's just the general look. This is the flashing stop sign situation we have, so. And then we'd be looking, this is a full program, design right away and construction. We'd be looking at 80-20 split, so that's about 1.1 million that we'd be requesting from the county road board. So in general, this is how it kind of all breaks down. You can see these are the two that I talked about with Main Street. They have our two federal amounts in there. And that's where these amounts are about 20% of that total construction. And this just gives you a better idea in a summary of what we'll be requesting for this year. So, and this would be our priority. Honestly, like I said, Main Street Phase 1 is ending its right-of-way phase, so it will be in construction. And that's where we hope we get good bids, but it's kind of a shot in the dark sometimes. Phase 2, we're starting design this year using those federal funds, so we got a couple years, so we think we have some time to kind of evaluate that project and see what happens with the right-of-way and construction. Right-of-way is tough on those two projects, just because everything was so tight and all that, so that would be our priority list. Is there any questions?
Our road extension, that's basically a subdivision road, am I right?
Essentially, yeah. Yeah, it would be a subdivision
It's
road.
costly, the subdivision road being a promenade with a median down the middle.
It would be similar to Duchesne in St. Charles, where we're asking them to, instead of building a subdivision road, make it a collector road so that it will eventually extend all the way to Route Z. So it would be from Route Z to DD.
But still, it is constructed, it would be more or less a subdivision road.
I mean, how do you mean a subdivision road?
Well, I mean, the people that use the road would just be the people that live in the subdivision.
Well, that's
It's
not
not
the
a-
intent.
Pardon?
That would not be the intent. It would be intended that it would be used to connect, it would be built as a collector. That's where that 55-35-10 comes from. That's what I think
But being a
John,
promenade
at some
is
point,
also-
determined that it's 55% more to build a collector road versus a residential street. I don't know.
But with the median and all that, I mean, it's the most expensive way to build a road through there.
With,
If they just did 3 lanes through there, it'd be a whole lot cheaper than what they got planned. I mean,
gotcha.
we're going for the look, going through the subdivision, and not for, a commuter road.
I will discuss that further with the city and the developer, but yeah, it's intended to be a collector road. I think Duchesne also has a median down the middle too, and it was built on the same way, so we'll look at that.
I just
I don't think
know
Duchesne
what
has
kind
a
of
median
deal.
anywhere on it.
It
Let's
doesn't?
put a subdivision road in.
Okay.
Not that I can,
North Duchesne?
No, through the,
I was, yeah,
towards Melwetter Parkway, yeah,
okay. I thought so.
in
Okay.
In Provence.
The new part, because that was the same deal, those 55-35-10. Yeah, yeah. Okay, anyway, we'll look at it, that's, okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, City of St. Charles.
All right, hi everybody. My name's Kirsten Lawrence. I'm Assistant City Engineer with the City of St. Charles and here to present to you our 4 applications this year. I'm going to kind of go out of order just on this slide because 2 of them, number 1 and number 3, are both projects that were kind of born from the Frenchtown Great Streets plan that we completed, East West Gateway completed it in conjunction with the city. For redeveloping the historic Frenchtown area. It was completed in 2020. So these are kind of the first 2 projects from that. They're over on the east side of town, over here by the river. The second project is Regency Parkway, which is down here to the south. It's just south of I-70. And then the other one is Newtown Boulevard Culver, which is up to the north side of town, just north of 370. So the first one, the North 2nd Street Reconstruction. This is in the downtown area of St. Charles between Clark Street and Bayard Street. It's adjacent to this industrial complex here. It's the American Car Foundry. It used to be where they manufactured rail cars. Now it's mostly abandoned, but it's a nice historic part of town that we want to try to stimulate economic development here. So right now this is a look at the corridor here. It's wide open. It used to be along the State Route 94, so it's wide corridor. You can see a lot of the old buildings that are built right up to the right of way. Not a lot of room for expansion. Some of the existing conditions, like I mentioned, the corridor is really wide open. It's straight. There's a little bit of problem with speeding down there. The sidewalk is all inconsistent material. Some of it's brick, some of it's concrete. There's some of it that's asphalt. It's just really wide commercial entrances that kind of make up the sidewalk. Not ADA compliant. A lot of trip hazards. You can see in some of these photos, like here, there's obstructions in the curb ramps, hydrants, and utility poles, and all that. The drive lanes of the asphalt pavement are not in terrible shape. It's the parking lanes, adjacent to the drive lanes are pretty rough. They're cracked and deteriorating. Some of the curbs are in bad shape. There's also some strange variable height curbs. There's some here, you can see very tall curbs, 10, 12 inch high curbs, and then there's some areas where it's very low, like only an inch or two. So what we're hoping to do is to take that existing corridor, same width, 38.5 foot wide, and neck it down to just the two drive lanes, a little bit narrower, 10.5 foot wide, with close to 9 foot wide permeable paver parking lanes on either side. As I mentioned, the drive lanes are not in terrible shape, so we would just resurface the drive lanes there, and then convert all of those sidewalks to concrete with a brick band at the curb to kind of keep with the aesthetics of the historic area. Make everything ADA compliant, of course, and add some crosswalks, high visibility crosswalks. We want to make this a more pedestrian friendly corridor. Add some street and pedestrian lighting. You can see in this rendering here from the Great Streets plan, there's some little areas for, in the bulb outs at the intersections to incorporate some rain gardens and other landscaping. I forgot to mention too on this photo here, you can kind of see there's this project situated right in between two pretty significant trail networks. So you can see the Katy Trail running along the Missouri River here, and then this darker line, it's actually used to be a railroad spur into the ACF property, but it was recently up to Lawrence Street, which is this next block here. It was converted into a trail, an extension of the Boschert Greenway. So part of this project is to extend that trail basically from Lawrence Street, crossing 2nd Street over to the Katy Trail. Some of the other stuff we wanted to do is underground the overhead utilities through there, working with the utilities. I think there's Ameren, Charter, AT&T, and other fiber all on those poles, so we'd have to work with them. And then some of the pedestrian furniture, benches, bike racks, and there's a little city park at the northern end of the project where there's a trolley stop now. We'd add a transit shelter for that. So this is the breakdown. We applied for the federal funds and were recommended for award on that. So we're asking the county for $960,000 for just over 12% of the total project. The next one, Regency Parkway. This is just south of I-70 at, between Zumbell Road and Veterans Memorial Parkway. Some of you might recall, we came to you with this project last year, but at the time it was not eligible for federal funds because of its classification as a local road. But since then, we worked with East West Gateway to have it reclassified as, I believe it's a minor collector now. So it was eligible for federal funds this year. And So this is just a look at the corridor now. It's also pretty wide. It's striped with two very wide lanes with some intermittent turn lanes throughout at some of the commercial entrances. On either side of Regency Parkway, there's a bunch of commercial development, including Walmart, Sam's Club, and some of you might be familiar with the old Red Roof Inn site here is currently under construction to be Chick-fil-A, so it's a booming, busy corridor here. The pavement in that area is in really rough shape. Most of the defects are, the joints are failing, and some wide cracks have opened up and some large potholes. With all the commercial businesses around here, it sees truck traffic that I don't think it was originally designed to handle, so tears it up. We gave it a Paisley rating of 3.25 out of 10, so it's pretty rough. There's some areas too where you can see the vehicles have off-tracked onto the sidewalk and broken that up, and some non-compliant curb ramps. What we'd like to do is take that existing same width of the corridor and replace all of the pavement with a heavy-duty concrete to support all that truck traffic, and replace the rolled curb with vertical curb to add a little bit more barrier from the street to the pedestrians on the sidewalk. And we want to stripe it with a continuous two-way turn lane throughout. And we'd widen the sidewalks just slightly. I think they're between 3 and 4 foot wide now, and we'd make them 5 foot. And add some crosswalk striping, there's a couple of cross streets as well as some really wide entrances like at Walmart that we want to stripe to make it a little bit more pedestrian friendly. It's just a concept plan, basically the same thing I said, just convert that 2-lane section with wide lanes to 3 lanes. This is the funding breakdown for this one. Again, we applied for the federal funds, now it's eligible, and it was recommended for award, so we're asking the county for a 16% share for $504,000. The next one is the historic Main Street extension. This road does not exist currently. It would basically extend through the previously mentioned ACF property between Clark Street and connect up to North 2nd Street at Montgomery Street. This is just kind of look of what it looks like now. It's just an entrance into the facility. It's paved. It's just kind of an internal drive for the industrial complex right now. So what we would like to do is add 2 11-foot wide asphalt roadway lanes with curb and gutter, it's kind of keeping with the same aesthetic as the North 2nd Street project, add concrete sidewalks with a brick band, and add some lighting, and there's some opportunities here for on-street parking as well that we would, consistent with the 2nd Street project, use the permeable pavers for. There's a few utilities overhead here that we would underground as well, and add some lighting, of course. These are just some images from the Great Streets plan of like the materials that would be proposed through here. The project also would include these side street extensions connecting between North 2nd Street and Main Street. So there's three or four of them there. This is a breakdown here. This project was not a federal fund eligible because it also is not classified. It doesn't exist. So we'd have to work with East West Gateway to get the future road classified before it would be eligible. So at this point, we're looking at a 58-42% split with the $4.64 million request from the County Road Board. And finally,
is there some plan for redevelopment down there, or?
We're actively looking for opportunities for redevelopment, yes. So there's not anybody on board currently, but lots of interest.
So we met with Jim Unger last week, who owns the entire ACF property. There's potential redevelopment of the building north that's currently in Olympia. There will be a building complex.
So on the north end.
There's a group looking to do that. There's also a group looking at building 90 and 91, which are the 2 buildings south of that, to do apartments, or redo that building as apartments. So there's pieces of it coming together. Mr. Unger is working with the city to allow for this road to go through his property.
So what's the focus of the property gonna be? Another entertainment district or residential or?
Yeah, it's a mixed-use sort of development.
Yeah, so the building at the bottom, the brown building at the bottom is a current office building. It'd be continued to be used as an office building. We see the blue areas is probably more retail. There's what's called the powerhouse building close to the river. It's probably ideally sized for two-story restaurant type use. We have Climb So Ill, which is the blue portion of that longer building, 90. That's currently a good use for the entire area. But all of this is kind of coming out of that Great Streets plan of what the area wants, what Design Workshop believed was the highest and best use for this property in this area. So, all of this was built on the foundation that the city, the county, and the public put together in that Great Streets plan.
You guys aren't worried about oversaturation of entertainment areas? You got French Street, you got everything on the other side of the highway, you got Main Street.
Yeah, I all I can say is that, with the River Point project, they've got more people ready to go than spaces to put them in at this point, so.
It kind of all works together, the River Point, and this is just like a whole riverfront.
Yeah, but you're on two sides of the highway.
Yeah, but we have historic Main Street district and everything in between the Maristar Casino and everything kind of, all kind of works together to create this destination along the riverfront, so.
Yeah. I just worry about oversaturation because you end up like Chesterfield, with 2 outlet malls,
Sure.
Actually the outlet mall that they thought was gonna do well is the one that failed and,
Yeah.
I'm saying, wait till you get one district done, see what your needs are before you start the next one.
I think we have to consider too that, I had the same thought about that's gonna be oversaturated by the time you do River Point, then all the way to that point up there. But when you consider the way the county is growing, and then more and more, we're getting people over the Boone Bridge that are coming from St. Louis County. Frankly, there's not a lot of good stuff happening over there anymore. So
Did you hear on the news today, 100% of the inmates in St. Charles County Jail are from St. Louis County. There's 0 St. Charles County residents in.
So see,
Charles
proof
County.
that
We pay
more and more people are coming over.
Yeah, we're a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
So, we need to put the gates across the bridge here. Illinois has across the bridge here at Alton has plate readers from Missouri. They read the plates coming from Missouri, looking for outstanding warrants and stolen cars. So,
Good idea.
Any other questions on that one? No?
I have a question on, or are you finished?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I can wait till the end of your presentation.
Okay, yeah. One more project, then we'll be good. This last one's for a Newtown Boulevard culvert replacement. With the help of the County Road Board a couple of years ago, we were able to build a culvert at Skinner Industrial. We realigned this intersection here. It was offset from the Mueller Road intersection, so we built this road, rebuilt the road here that needed a new culvert to facilitate that crossing to line up with the intersection. So that project's been completed. You can kind of see on the right side here, this is the new culvert, and then there's this little gap in between, and then there's the old Newtown Boulevard culvert. This is up north of 370 along Newtown Boulevard. The existing conditions, it's a triple cell box culvert, and on the 2020 MoDOT bridge inventory, it was given a rating of 6, and I believe that's on a scale of 10. The concrete pavement over the culvert's in rough shape. There's some big cracks and potholes forming. This area does also see a lot of truck traffic. There's FedEx facility where the Skinner Industrial the road goes to. And then up north, there's a couple other trucking facilities. So a lot of wear on the pavement, in addition to ongoing residential development going on up to the north, in addition to Newtown. There's a lot of traffic here. So it's also poorly aligned on the creek. There's like this 90-degree bend that comes into the culvert at the creek. So a lot of silt settles out in the culvert, reduces the capacity, causes issues upstream. So one of the things, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but one of the things that we did with the Skinner Industrial culvert was we realigned that on the channel a little bit, so it would facilitate an extension of that culvert across Newtown Boulevard as well, better aligned on the channel to hopefully help with the siltation. This current culvert doesn't really have any pedestrian facilities to cross the creek. You can see in this photo here, there's this like 1 to 2 foot wide area between the head wall and the barrier you can't really walk on. On the other side, there's a little bit more room, there's a couple feet, but it's not paved, there's no sidewalks leading to it. So it's hard to cross there. You'd have to, it's not very safe to cross there, basically. Oh, whoa. So what we want to do is, like I said, extend that Skinner Industrial culvert across. That one was also a triple cell, but it was a little bit different dimensions, 20 by 9 each cell. Again, I mentioned approved angle on the channel. What we would do is add a 10-foot shared use path on the one side to help facilitate pedestrian and multimodal movement across that, and extend the trail about 1,000 feet up Newtown Boulevard to connect to the trail that exists there now. It's just south of Newtown subdivision. There's also a network of trails in the Fountain Lakes Industrial Complex immediately adjacent to this intersection as well, so we could kind of facilitate a connection of these trail systems here at the culvert. The project also include new pavement over top, all the essential guardrails, pedestrian fencing, and traffic barriers required. This one was eligible for federal funding, and we did apply, but we were not awarded the federal funds this year. So our application, we had asked for, we had assumed we would get the federal funding. And so today we actually would like to request a modified ask of 80-20 split for a county share of $2 million on this one. So with that, any questions?
I had one question on the Main Street extension map. There's a line item that I just wanted to ask you about on the project estimated cost for restoration of seed and sod. It looks like it's all pavement on this plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering about that line item of $100,000 for seed and sod.
I know there's some green space areas down here by the Foundry Arts Center that would need to be restored. And I think we'd also thought that maybe in lieu of some of the brick that we could put some green space in the buffer areas, but I believe that's all I can think of that would have been for.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll finish with the city of Wentzville.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Matt Wahlberg. I'm the Director of Engineering for the City of Wentzville. And we have 3 applications before the board today. One is an intersection project, and the second 2 are resurfacing projects with the addition of some shoulder and some other safety improvements. So the first project is at the intersection of Pierce Boulevard and Lynn Avenue. If you've been to downtown Wentzville and you've crossed the railroad tracks, you're on Lynn Avenue. So, or if you go to Wentzville Days this weekend, you will be right here. This intersection is currently a 4-way stop control intersection, and the level of service that we found with a traffic consultant is currently an F, which is, I guess, which is failing. You know, you're familiar with that. But so there's some pictures of the intersection today. We have we have curb ramps, but if you can, I mean, it's not, you don't, it doesn't take an engineer to look at the crosswalks and say those are just not wide enough. We do have a fairly good, big congestion problem here, especially midday. And then when school gets out from the north, there is a school and the traffic increases that way. A little bit of a side note here. I haven't been with Winslow very long, but before I started, I saw some of the projects on the list, and you know, to get familiar with it, I go to Google Maps and start looking around. If the 2018 images of this intersection is what I first landed on. Winslow had this decorative fire hydrant program at the time, and there was a fire hydrant in almost every corner. I thought, how in the heck are we going to put signals here? We've got to move all these hydrants, but they're just decorative. So that was a relief. But you know, for better or for worse, we do have we have utility poles in the way. So there you know, I guess my fears were not fully resolved, but we do have some utility relocation that's going to happen. But I don't think we're relocating any hydrants. The city does own this parcel here, where this parking lot, the city parking lot, and more or less at that trash can is where where one of the signals would go. This project also is not the beginning of, but it's part of part of the western portion of our downtown study revitalization plan. And as you can see in this, they are looking for this rendering of the plan. We were calling for a signal there at the time. And what that study is really, what we're trying to build from that study is just more of a more welcoming, more pedestrian-friendly downtown. And we've implemented parts of that so far, especially closer to the tracks here. The railroad is just on the bottom of the picture, just off the picture. We're implementing it as we go. We feel like this signal would be more of a catalyst to get more work done on Pierce itself. And you have the study done a few years ago to get the pictures and everything to show that we should maybe put a signal there, but then actually have the traffic engineers this past winter validate that one is warranted through MUTCD. This is the preliminary plan of what that signal would look like, and the crosswalks and everything. The crosswalks are a pretty big improvement over the stop control. We'd have the APS pedestrian buttons, and I think there's a certain amount of intersection reconstruction that would happen there to make it all ADA compliant. We're putting the limits of work about 200 feet away from the intersection on all four sides to really have those sidewalk tie-ins. And then there'll be the fiber interconnect. We're building another signal to the west, and have the fiber connected through there, and the Gateway Green Light program. And the overall cost, we're seeking a 40% participation from St. Charles County. We did apply for CMAQ funding for this project, and in that preliminary list, we are recommended for approval. So we're looking at an 80-20 split for that remaining 50% of the project. Before I move to Pittman, any questions about?
I have one for you. Every new signal that goes into the county, is it automatically part of the green light program?
Yes.
It is, okay, so that'll be tied in.
Yeah, like he said, they plan to connect it to the fiber, so yeah, it'd be connected.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think I'd have to look at the estimate, but it's like 2,000 feet of conduit to get to that next signal. But yeah, it'll be ready to go. And just following the grant timeline, we'd start design next year and hope to build it in 2025.
Why did you pick Lynn? I live out that way. I'm just curious, why did you pick that intersection, not the one up further by the car wash and the Mexican restaurant?
I guess I think partly
I mean,
because of that
One's
downtown
a
plan.
three-way, one's a four-way stop.
Yeah,
The one, the car wash is under construction right now.
yeah, you're talking about
Meyer
Meyer and Lynn. We've got a lot of utility work going on there, and that's all leading up to getting the signal done and then repaving the road afterwards. But, so yeah, okay, I'm sorry, we are doing that signal now, but we're not looking at, I think we would try to implement that downtown plan for Pierce in sections and do those intersections as we got there. This intersection already has a congestion, so if we never get to the downtown plan, you know, if it just becomes a pretty picture, this would still have that benefit of traffic. And we have the city lot there, the public city parking there, give a better pedestrian access to downtown, or down to the rest of downtown.
When we moved out there, you used to come up Highway, I live in Melly, come up Highway Z, hit Pierce, go all the way out, hit the Parkway, which wasn't a Parkway then, I guess, and then back over Highway 70, make the whole loop and not have a stop sign.
Things have changed a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, Wentzville is quite different than it was 10, 20 years ago.
Two-lane bridge, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you do take that route in a couple years, Z will be under construction, and well, you know, there's a lot going on there. So, so I think, if I might,
Can I ask you one question?
Absolutely.
I ran into a guy who works for the railroad, talking about the new railroad bridge going across. He said that the restaurant right there, part of their stuff is on railroad property.
Well, I mean, it's not a total surprise. You do a survey for almost any intersection or road project, and you find the sidewalk that, even if it was built 15 years ago, is maybe it's 6 inches off the right of way, or there are all kinds of oddities out there.
I mean, they're not gonna knock Brett Hall's restaurant down and put the new bridge on. I mean, but even though, I'm not sure the building's on there, but he was complaining that, you know, Wentzville didn't do their due diligence because part of that is on railroad property.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you knew about that, or if you,
I hadn't heard that.
okay,
I think in large part we'd have to rely on the surveyors to
yeah.
point that out.
I just ran into him and another guy, the other guy I knew up at, Rural King one day, and they were talking about it, you know, and I'm like, this is interesting.
Well, I think if we would know about something like that, we certainly want to avoid it.
Yeah.
That could
You may
be a
wanna
really
look
bad
into- you
day
may
for
wanna look
somebody
into it.
someday. Yeah.
Because he also complained about the new overpass, because they were complaining about having to monitor you guys because of the height of the overpass to the train tracks too.
Yeah.
So,
That could be David Hokel Parkway over 70,
Right.
or I mean, eventually Wentzville Parkway South as well. Anyway, I guess our goal would be to be on good terms with the railroad, because they go right through us. Yeah, we are going to work together on, and I'm really digressing now, but Luton House goes underneath the railroad and has a really pretty tight bridge. We are proposing to work together, we're planning to work together to beautify that bridge a little bit when the railroad comes through and works on it.
you may want to look into where the property lines for the railroad is.
Absolutely. Okay. So our next project is East Pittman Avenue, and for reference, East Pittman is north of Highway 70 and just south of the railroad tracks. It more or less parallels the railroad tracks on the south side. We're looking at a project that's about 3 miles in length. The current road has 2 11-foot wide lanes, no shoulders, several places where there are some pretty old guardrail, certainly not how one would build it today. And the pavement's about 14, 15 years old, and when we looked at the pavement conditions, the Pazer rating was just under 5. It gets about 2,000 cars a day. we're showing, we've got a lot of interest in development between, just on that north side of the highway. It's a lot of green space, a lot of visibility to the highway. Certainly had some decent conversations. We do have some projects in progress. We do anticipate that developing over time. I guess not too dissimilar from a lot of areas in Winsville, but this area in particular. So just some photos of the street. The photo on the bottom really it shows these guardrail treatments. Those really do need to be replaced, and we don't have any. Most of the road doesn't have any shoulders. Now there is one place over by the Camping World that has a shoulder, but unfortunately our only shoulder is in really bad condition. It's just overlay after overlay and broken up. So what we're proposing to do is to build 2-foot wide asphalt shoulders on each side, and then repave the entire stretch of road, replace the guardrails, and then improve some sight distance at a couple intersections, particularly at that Pittman Loop Road. And so this project, we had applied for CMAQ funding for the previous project. We applied for SDP funding for this project here, but we're not on that preliminary list. So based on the city's capital improvement budget, we ended up just making this an 80-20 request at this point. Really weighed the options of doing that in different ways, but for better or for worse, the city's budget's not currently set up to ask for more than this request. But we do still think it's a valuable project, and if we're not successful in this round, we'd probably seek federal and county funding in the future. So our third project is in concept very similar to the Pittman Avenue project. This is Wilmer Road. It's south of Highway 70, and probably familiar with Interstate Drive. This project would start at Interstate and come down to the Peru Creek Bridge. It's about a mile in length. Just like Pittman, there are 2 11-foot wide lanes. There are no shoulders. There are some outdated edge treatments, I would call them, really just signs protecting a couple drop-offs. And the Payzer rating is just about the same. This street got a rating of 5. Where this road project is different is that Wilmer Road is more of a country road that is just being asked to do more than as development happens. It's being asked to do more than it's designed for.
It's a cut-through road, what it is.
Right. If you go straight down, as more development happens in the south, yeah.
You come in the back way to Rural King, and we have to go through the stoplight.
Yeah. You're very familiar with it. So the pavement is getting to the point where we're looking at resurfacing it, but when we get to that point, want to look at also some safety improvements too. That 3-foot wide asphalt shoulder would really help with some of these drop-offs that you have. And then this is one of several culverts here. It's several feet down, and probably should have measured it, but if I were standing there, I'm not sure I'd be as tall as that culvert there. And that sign is the only protection that we have. So we would propose to have that shoulder, but also have some guardrail treatments.
There's a new development going in right there on Wilmer, isn't it? Right before
Correct.
Interstate on the right-hand side.
Right.
Yeah. How many homes are supposed to go in there?
What's that?
How many homes are supposed to go in there?
I don't know.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
What is it going to do to traffic?
Well, it's certainly going to increase, right?
Yeah.
Just like what is it going to do for
It's
stormwater?
already
It's going
a
to
lot of
increase.
traffic on it.
Yeah. So I think the improvements to Interstate will help.
Yeah.
But as we developed around the center of town and started moving out, some of these other roads get to be stressed a little bit more. So it's a very similar image to the one before with Pittman, but so resurfacing and shoulders and the guardrail as well. And some of those box culverts will need to be extended a little bit to make room for the shoulders. So this project we are asking for 80% funding for, which comes out to be about, well, $2.25 million from the county. The city's contribution would be about $560,000. With that, I really thank you for the opportunity. Happy to answer any questions, and I just thank you for your time.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amanda, you want to take item number 7?
Yes.
I know you had an email out on this, but
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to say, and I kind of said it a little bit earlier, that we did do fairly well with East West Gateway. There were 9 STP projects approved in the county with federal funding of $13,868,000. That was 16.9% of the total for the region in federal funds. And then for CMAQ, they ended up awarding all of the projects. They put in some extra funds from the federal infrastructure bill. So they awarded $34 million in federal funds, and we received 6 projects totaling $5,831,000. So 17.2% there. So St. Louis City came out on top with 20% of CMAQ and 29% of federal. I guess not on top, but on top of their population wise. So 29% of the STP funds. But we did well. So we have, a lot of good projects that have federal funds. I think I already said that, the other part of this item was our available funding. So that's probably around 15 to 20 million. I still need to kind of go in and really look hard at some stuff, but I'm pretty confident that we can get at least to that 15 million very comfortably. So that would fund all of the projects that receive federal funds plus some other stuff. So I think we're good to approve a fairly good group of projects again this year. So that's all I had.
so the next meeting will be Wednesday, June 15th. Where will that work session be?
Up in the training room. Yeah,
Back room.
542. Yeah.
Very good. Any other business for this evening?
Oh, hey, Amanda.
Yeah.
I heard a comment, and I don't remember where, this wasn't here, but that there was some conflicts between the new proposed realignment of 70 and the ramps coming off of 61, which we are funding. We funded $1 million to study. You heard anything about that?
There are conflicts with who?
Between the proposed straightening of the curve at 61 and the revamping of the intersection of 70 and 61.
Oh, the two
yeah.
projects. The
Yes,
two projects
yes.
being okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what's happening is MoDOT has realized that those two projects are very intertwined, which we always knew. So I think what's actually going to happen, and I'm, this is not record. I'm not MoDOT, but it's very likely that they will hold off on the railroad project construction a little bit to let the other project catch up, so they can coordinate completely, because they need to coordinate completely. So the railroad project was actually funded to start late next year. I don't think it'll be much behind that. They have the funds in their draft STIP for the interchange, which is incredible. I don't think anything happened with the legislature last week, so I think that those funds are still there. So they have like $93 million to work on the 6470 interchange.
How many
And
million?
93 million.
So that was a 60 plus 30 for the ramps then? It's, the realignment was 60 million or 50 million, wasn't
The realignment of the railroad bridge is 30 million.
it? 30.
So they had that already.
Okay.
They have another 93 million.
Oh, no,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. It's a huge project.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep. But it may hold up the railroad projects slightly. So.
Do what?
I live on this side.
Anything else?
Doing the north side of the tracks?
Are you going to update us next month or whatever it is on where the design build project for 70 stands?
I
Can't say anything.
do that.
Kills
No,
us.
I mean,
That can go out.
I don't really, they have a signed contract, Millstone Weber. We are still working through potential changes to their proposed design. And I don't know where that stands. So hopefully we'll have an answer by next month. That's really all I know.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
I'm gonna say no next time.
Fine.
Then we gotta have a 15-minute discussion.